सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Om, may He protect us both. May we both enjoy together. May we both exert together. May our studies become brilliant. May we not become disputatious and hate each other. Om, peace, peace, peace. Hari Om, everybody. Welcome back to the Bhagavad Gita classes. The never-ending classes. It continues to go on. Why I'm saying never-ending is not from the point of view of what we are doing here, but we have been studying for past 20-25 years, 2.5 decades, and the study just doesn't get over. Because the study of the Bhagavad Gita, or any scriptures for that matter, it is not objective. It's not in relation with the world. Then it becomes very easy. Something to learn about the world, it becomes very easy. But when it's supposed to be learned only for self-development, then the unit of measurement of the success of the studies is directly dependent or directly proportional to what I was before. So the only relationship or only comparison which we have as an individual is my own past, our own past vis-a-vis our own present. That's all. And it's an ongoing race, but it goes on getting better as we go. So we have completed Bhagavad Gita 5 chapters. Arjuna has started the chapter Bhagavad Gita with Vishada Yoga, crying, I don't know what to do, if you remember the whole thing. He decides, I don't want to fight, and then starts giving examples and reasons why I should not fight. I told you this is the way the mind works. The mind actually starts the decision making first and then justifies why it is not supposed to be doing so or doing so. This is the way the mind works. And the whole chapter, he actually brings in Krishna also to explain that we should not fight. We are doing a lot of sin. We are doing papa by fighting, And I want to do sannyas. I want to go for sannyas. Because I've heard the Rishi Munis, and they said that sannyasa is the best thing what anybody can do. Your only mission in life is to be self-sufficient, self-poised, and self-pleased, says Swami Ramatirtha. Your only mission in life is to realize your own true self, says Swami Ramatirtha. So all these great masters saying so many things. Therefore, I want to take sannyasa. This is as simple as that. And he's already taken the decision and he's put the bow and arrow down. And then Krishna's teaching starts from chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga. Then as Sankhya Yoga goes, eventually till verse 53, he explains, and then Arjuna is asking the question about who is a self-realized person. What are the lakshana? What are the description of how would you identify a self-realized person? You cannot identify self-realization outside yourself. Okay. You can only identify self-realization within yourself. Whether you have realized or not, how will you know? You will know. There is no demarcation. There is no unit of measurement to say, okay, this is what is self-realization. So what kind of a dress material I am wearing, what kind of, whether I'm putting chandan tilak or not, or putting the vyudi like this or the stripes, what kind of hair should I have? Vajagovindam, those who are doing it will come very soon. Jatilo Mundi Lunchitari. What kind of hairstyle should I have? It should be long jatadhari so that people look at me and say, my God, what a sage. Or it should be nothing, completely bald, so I should look like a Buddha. Or what kind of a hairdo should I have? Huh? What kind of clothes should I, what kind of mala should I have? Should I have a Rudraksh mala? Even in Rudraksh mala, somebody told me you should have a one mukhi. Sir, ek mukhi rega, so it's very lucky. See, whole thing is focused only on get up. And that's what Arjuna is asking, a very, very straightforward question. How can one recognize Asthita Prajna? And Krishna's wonderful answer, one of the best answers anybody could have given at that time, at that point of time, and even this time. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. O Partha, when you have given up all the desires from your mind and the mind is satiated in itself, you are a Sthita Prajna. It is said, Saha Uchyate, it is said that you are a Sthita Prajna. So even there, the whole idea is there is no unit of measurement. How will you know whether desires are? Only you will know. How do you know you are contented within yourself? Only you will know. So that's Sthita Prajna, and he gives a beautiful exposition of that till the verse 70 verses or so, 72 I think so. And then he goes on to Karma Yoga. What is the right type of action? Then chapter 4, Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Then Sannyasa Karma, giving a renunciation while acting. How should I renunciate the fruits? Then 5th chapter is how should I give up the action itself? Not bothered about the action. Action you do to the best of the ability and without any desire-ridden activities, you have reached the self. So slowly, initially, not bothered about the result and focusing more and more and more on action only. That was the 4th chapter and the 5th chapter. And now 6th chapter, the last verse which we did in the previous class was the procedural details. Close your eyes, sit properly, bend a little, look upwards in devotion. And then he also gives the most important thing, to do dhyana. To do dhyana or meditation is control your body, mind and intellect. Control your body. We discussed what was tapas, controlling the energy from going outside into dissipating channels and using it for a higher cause. Same thing for the mind, same thing for the intellect. So when you use the body, mind and intellect, discipline them and use the language of self-control, you have reached a different state. Dhyana Yoga. Now we are into Dhyana Yoga. Okay. This chapter itself is chapter of meditation. And the beauty is when he says meditation, because why we are saying dinning on this is, everybody keeps on asking this question. Whenever we have tried to teach the Bhagavad Gita or Atma Bodha or Bhajagovindam or Ramayana or any of the texts, the first thing people ask is, do you teach meditation? Because it is catching up. You do some breathing exercises, you do meditation, and you are considered to be a very evolved soul. Nobody does meditation. Meditation happens. It's like in yoga, when you say Shavasana, you have not experienced Shavasana. Shavasana is piecemeal distribution where each and every part of your body is you're considered to be dead. And then it's just a relaxation technique between two asanas. Similarly, a relaxation of the mind in its everyday running activities. Close your eyes, sit for 5 minutes, think about ABCD, whatever it is. It's coined or termed as meditation. I would prefer people would go and take power naps. Just for 20 minutes, 30 minutes or 10 minutes, just take a power nap, come back and start. Because these exercises, when you control the body, mind, and intellect, you reach that dhyana. Therefore, it is no more a surprise that in this chapter, which is represented as Dhyana Yoga, yoga of meditation, the first verse entirely is again based on preparation, because hardly anybody prepares. Nobody prepares. Hmm? They are in, it's again, it's meditation or yoga. See, I'll just explain this to you. When you start your spiritual discipline, they say start doing yoga. Foreigners, anybody abroad who don't have this kind of culture, yoga is the easiest because yoga is physical exercises. So they have yoga and they have 10,000 types of yoga. There is a treadmill yoga. I don't know whether you have heard this. There is a doga, where they do yoga with their pets, dogs. Dogs also want to stretch. So all these gimmicks are going on everywhere. The person who teaches yoga is called a guru, and all these concepts are there, right? So spirituality starts with yoga. Yoga means what? Until you are physically fit, you will not be able to concentrate. Even now in this lecture, if you are closing your eyes and listening and sitting in one position, it's very difficult to continuously sit in one position if there are aches and pains in the body. So while you are listening, because you are dedicated to the cause, to the studies, you may sit, force yourself and say, okay, I want to listen. Direct relay is the best relay, so I want to listen. But while listening, the shoulder is paining, the lower back is paining, head is paining, one eye is throbbing, So with all these things, it's very difficult to concentrate. Therefore, the first thing they say is do yoga. That's the first, physical exercises. Once you become physically fit, with further studies, you will know how to act in the world. Because if you are not fit, what are you going to act in the world outside? So the first idea to even go for an action is fit. One lady told me that I want to go for Navratri and I want to dance, sir. I said, go. I said, is it okay if I dance for Navratri? Go and dance. You start at 10 o'clock, you end up at, I don't know, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. 1-2 hours, it's the greatest cardio. Just dance. There's nothing wrong in that. So when you start pushing people, then they start moving into activity. Then the second comes Karma Yoga. Okay? Karma Yoga, and while doing the activity, put passion into that activity. That is called devotion, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is putting all passion into that higher goal in life. Higher goal decided by or determined by Jnana Yoga. What is to be done and what is not to be done. What is not to be done, I'm not going to get indulging into that. What is to be done, I will go for it. Karma, Bhakti, and Jnana. When that happens, slowly, very gradually, the mind becomes calmer and you come into the state of meditation. Meditation is a single pointed focus on a particular thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts under the constant supervision of your intellect. So what happens? Sir, my child wants to be a doctor. Excellent. Excellent. So what do you do? First year, second year, third year. So you start by applying all the things, everything, and getting yourself acclimatized by the concepts. Then first year, second year, third year, then fourth year, and then you become a doctor. Apprenticeship, and then you become a doctor. Okay. So what you have to do? First year, second year, third year, fourth year, apprenticeship, and then doctor. So if you repeat with me, if you want to become a doctor, how do you want to become? First year, second year, third year, fourth year, apprenticeship, and doctor. I'm assuming this is the state. I'm just giving an example. Is it possible for anybody to become a doctor without apprenticeship? No, sir, it is not possible at all. Without apprenticeship, you can't become a doctor. Acha, acha. So with apprenticeship, you have to become a doctor. Yes, without apprenticeship, you can't become a doctor. Therefore, apprenticeship, doctor. Yes, repeat. apprenticeship and then you become a doctor. Yes, sir. So you become an apprentice and then you become a doctor. Yes, sir. This is what we are doing. Karma, bhakti, and jnana, fourth state, silencing of the mind, eventually leads to meditation and realization. So the spiritual novices started asking, so without meditation, you can't realize, right? No, you can't. Without meditation. So meditation leads to realization. Correct. Meditation leads to realization. Absolutely correct. So you are saying 100%. Now meditation leads to realization. Yes. Therefore, everybody is meditating so that they can realize, forgetting the first year, second year, third year, and the silencing of the mind. Where the hard work is done, it's gone. Here, Krishna reveals again the basics of how you should live your life. We'll just chant this verse and then I'll explain. Chapter 6, Yoga of Meditation, Dhyana Yoga. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Anashrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sasannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriyaha. The blessed Lord said, he who does his bounden duty without depending on the fruit of action, he is a sannyasi, an ascetic, and a yogi. Not the one, niragniha, without fire, and not the one without action. Simple. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha. We have made this oftentimes, I've said this. It is not Krishna who vacha. The whole Bhagavad Gita starts with Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Then it is Sanjaya Uvacha. Dhritarashtra said, Sanjaya said. Then it is Duryodhana Uvacha. Duryodhana said. Then it is Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna said. Then it is Krishna Uvacha. No. Krishna Uvacha is not there. There is Bhagavan Uvacha. So one is Krishna is not speaking, indicating that if you attribute this kind of knowledge to an individual, then you or us, any of human beings, we will start finding faults in that particular individual and we give up the knowledge. The person may be right or wrong, but the knowledge is never wrong. If you know how to decipher and collect the knowledge, it's never wrong. So here it is not Krishna Uvacha, it is Bhagavan Uvacha. And second, the war has not started as of yet. They are just making a din of the place. War has not started as of yet. And Sanjaya is talking to Dhritarashtra. Therefore, Sanjaya is telling Bhagavan is on their side. If you want to stop the debacle, even now, Dhritarashtra has to just whistle from his palace and the whole thing. He just have to give a message to Bhishma saying, we are not fighting. The war will be over. Bhishma will come back. Drona will come back. There won't be any war because Bhishma will only listen to Dhritarashtra. So he is giving a hint. Sanjaya is giving a hint to Dhritarashtra. Bhagavanuvacha. Bhagavan is saying. And from our point of view, the highest principle in human life is talking. Therefore, there should not be any doubt about it. Ha, wo to theek hai, you know, that Krishna talks, but then he talked 5,000 years back, na sir. So when he is talking 5,000 years back, how it is happening? There is no doubt. There is knowledge and there is Sanatan Dharma. Knowledge can go up and down based on information. But what is right then will be right now. This is called Sanatana, eternal principles. Draupadi's Vastraharan in that parliament thousands of years back is still considered vile and bad now and will continue to consider like that 10,000 years hence. Gambling was a vice then where Yudhishthira lost. It is still considered a vice now and will continue. So these are the Sanatana, eternal principles. So this is one of the eternal principles. What? Anashrita karma phalam. Anashrita. Ashrita, expectation. Anashrita, no expectation. So it's so easy. It's actually Hindi. Anashrita, no expectation. Of what? Karma phalam. Whatever the fruits are going to come out of my karma. No expectation of that. Because when I start expecting what I am going to get while I am doing a particular action, then my action itself becomes faulty. So don't think about it. Oh, you should not think about the fruits as all. No, 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 no. You are supposed to think that this is the result which I want after this particular action. And continue to do your action. And when the result comes, look at the result, whether it is commensurate to your effort and what you wanted from life. If it is not commensurate to the effort and what you want from life, or this is not the result expected, then you change your process until you get the result. But you're not obsessed about the result. You are not asking, why is this happening? You are not asking to the world, did I do something wrong? Why is the world not responding to my efforts? There are no questions like that. So anashrita karma phalam, then what you do? Karyam karma karoti yah. Do your bounden duty. This bounden word, it's a very dangerous word. It's a translation is given. Bounden. Bound means you are bound. You are not bound by anything. Okay. When they say bounden duty, it means whatever karma you need to do, you do. Whatever. So how do you choose what karma you do? How does one choose what karma you do? The scriptures say at every given point of time, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, I am Shiva. Today is Shivratri. I am that mighty Shiva. I am a self-realization state myself. When I don't understand my own state as paripurnata, complete fulfillment, then and only then I assume a different state which is considered of being made as three temperaments. Till then, there is nothing, because I am the infinite reality. Chit Ananda Rupa Shivoham. I am infinite. So till I am infinite reality, there is no possibility of any other finite existence. But when I don't understand my own nature of infinitude, then I assume a finite personality which starts, this is where the theory starts, which starts with three gunas. I am made up of three gunas. Each of us is made up of three gunas. So when people say, we are all made up of three gunas, it's not so. We are all the supreme reality. Ignorantly, we are assuming we have three gunas. And then the story starts from there. So what are the three gunas? Bounden duty. Three gunas are, I am made up of sattva, rajas, and tamas. These are the three gunas. In different proportions, each individual is made. So when the proportion of sattvic guna is high, listen to this, I'm saying this again and again deliberately to din into people what casteism is about. Okay? When the sattvic guna is high, when the peacefulness is high, when the learning is high, then such a person is called a Brahmana. When the sattvic guna is a little less, rajas, the running around is a little bit high, anger is there, passion is there in doing things. Why can't you people do something? Come on, get up, do something. That kind of an attitude. Then I belong to the category of a Kshatriya, where I'm ready to fight. So Brahmana is one where sattva guna is the highest. Remember this. Where the sattva guna is highest is called a brahmana. Where the rajasic quality is more and you are ready to fight and defend the honor of your own family or the country or the community, you are a kshatriya. When you rajas becomes more and tamas becomes more and sattva comes down a little, then you become you are interested in economics. Then you are interested in what will I get, what will you get. Then you become a vaishya. Vaishya is a person, a businessman, economic of the country. Okay. And the least who do not have the attributes of sattva and rajas more, but tamas is more, they were called shudras. Remember this. Why I am saying this, when sattva is high, brahmana came. When rajas is high, kshatriya came. When rajas and tamas were higher, vaishyas came. And when all the three were absent and tamas was the highest, shudras came. These were just names given. So people who talk of caste, I would say remove these names. Doesn't matter. Keep it A, B, C, D. It doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Then you will start, we will start talking about this is A, this is B, and we'll start demolishing A, B, C, D also. It was never, I repeat, it was never declared in the Shastras that anybody who is born in a Rajasic family or a Tamasic family or a lower family cannot become a Brahmin. So, a Sant Rahidas, a Sant Kabir, who were so-called considered from the lower echelons of life, they were the highest class of Brahmins. It is just a name. Because so we don't have to get stuck with Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Get rid of the names. Just get rid of the names. In your house, is there anybody who is more peace-loving, who is more hell-bent in learning the beautiful things of life, nurturing and probably teaching it? If there is a person like that, whoever it is a Brahmin, man or a woman. So the categories are, so based on sattva, rajas and tamas, these categories were drawn. So for a common person, if you are a Brahmin, internally you find that, okay, I am a Brahmin, then you should go into study and analysis. It's as simple as that. If you are a Kshatriya, a warrior person, a warrior, and you are sitting and listening to lectures constantly, you will be frustrated and bored because you want to do something in the world. You want to safeguard the society from various other bad elements. So you need to go out and fight. That nature of yours will automatically push you. You don't have to do anything. It will push you. Same thing, Vaishya. You go to an ashram, like a teacher used to say, if a person who is a businessman leaves everything and comes to the academy or the ashram to study the higher scriptures, and suddenly he'll decide, oh my God, I got enough, I'll go to the Himalayas. And then such a person will go to the Himalayas. He'll build a small cottage by the side of the Ganges, and then he will see a small tree by the side. And in that small tree, there's a lot of silkworms moving around. Then he'll think of feeding that silkworm, harvesting the silkworms, and then perhaps create a sari shop for them. Silk saris. Anything, they'll become a business. It has happened. Temples have become businesses for this reason only. Because Brahmins are no more there. All Vaishyas have entered inside. How to make more money is the focus. Focus is no more on giving knowledge. A Brahmin, learn this, a Brahmin is supposed to teach everybody what is the right kind of living. How can I see and everybody should see that same divine principle everywhere without any demarcations. This is what knowledge does. Therefore, in the olden days, in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, Ramayana, there was sage Vasishtha, and that Vasishtha was the Kuluguru of the whole thing. Kuluguru, because when the state is going on, there has to be one Rishi to guide the state, always. So when the king is in doubt, when the ministers are in doubt, they will approach the Mahatma. And the Mahatma, since he studied the Granthas, will see to it that whatever decision the king is making is not deviating from the Dharma Granthas, from what is wrong and right. Not even one person should be hurt. Simple. Why do you think Rama sent Sita away when one dhobi said something? It was not because the focus of the story was not what he did to Sita. The focus was a king should be such, one voice of dissent and you are out. You take action immediately. So that level, one sage used to be there in a kingdom. Therefore, it is always said that in a country, religion should be present, because religion is the needle which shows where to go. Religion in politics, religion should be present. Agree? But it should not enter into politics. Because if it enters into politics, all hell breaks loose. Because then it becomes political. So the whole idea of the Shastras is, this is Brahmin. So now Brahmins are fighting for their identity. Kshatriyas are fighting for their identity. Vaishyas are fighting for their identity. And Shudras are fighting for their identity. Failing completely, it's each individual's nature that demarcates. In a house of Hiranyakashyap and Asura, a Prahalada, a topmost Brahmin was born. So it has nothing to do with house. It has nothing to do with parentage. It has nothing to do with anything by birth. Never. It was always what kind of a structure you have within you. And that's what determines the personality. Based on that personality, do your job. If you are a Brahmin, teach. If you are a Kshatriya, fight for the cause. And who was Arjuna? Arjuna was a Kshatriya. And Arjuna, being a Kshatriya, had the job to fight. And what a fight! Fight for righteousness. It is not about kingdom. It is not about my state versus your state, my country versus your country. It is about a simple fact which most of the people forget. What is right and what is wrong? When people start supporting wrong in the name of right and wrong, trouble starts. What is right and what is wrong? Take away the names, big names put on the mask, on the face. On the mask, it is written father, mother, brother, sister, guru, student. And we are responding to that particular mask. So when guru, for example, I, in this class, if I say something which is absolutely absurd, people, most of the adult people will keep quiet. Because Guruji ne bola hai na. And this is the most irritating fact. I have children's classes, young girls are coming there, it's around 14, 15 years old. So I deliberately keep on talking. So I tell them that, you know why this molestation and rape maximum happens in this country, in India? See, because it's the mistake of the girls. They wear jeans. And the worst thing, since the mobiles have come, they are constantly into mobiles, talking to each other, talking to boys. Wahan se rishte shuru hote hain. I think mobile should be stopped, and the children, the girls especially, should not wear jeans. Immediately, all the girls in that class, I'm so proud, all the girls said, sir, how dare you say that? We should teach the boys how to deal with everybody. They don't respect womankind. How? Immediately. So that attitude, even if the teacher says something wrong, don't swallow it. Don't swallow it. I may say something right and wrong based on my economics and my idea of what is right and wrong, which is not concurrent with the world at all. Your focus has to be, is this right or wrong? And you should know that. Dharma is right. What is dharma? Dharma means what is good for everybody is good for me also. We should not steal. How do I know? Because somebody comes into my home and causes a robbery, I get irritated. I get angry. I don't want anyone to come to my house and rob. Therefore, I would like to frame a law that robbery should be banished. This is the way Dharma proclaims. Everybody makes a law. This should not happen. हमारे यहाँ पे आप कचरा मत डालो. Don't throw garbage. So all these kinds of laws are made, and that is what is dharma. Do your bounden duty. So do your bounden duties, who you are. Characterize yourself. If sattva is more, you do accordingly. And based on that, you are moved into different stations of life. You have got certain vasanas. In this vasanas, there are various stations of life. What? From the age of 1 to 20 to 25 years, you should become a brahmachari. Then from 25 to 50, grihastha. Then from 50 to 75, vanaprastha. Then from 75 to 100, sannyasa. This is just a broad bifurcation. Just in case people don't have a head to think and cross, accordingly deciding to study their own self about what the gunas are. If they don't have that, then follow this. Till 25, become a student. Therefore, nobody should get married till 25. Become a very good student of subjects of life. Learn the art of being unselfish and selfless rather than always thinking about my own self. Then, after 25, get into the stream of grihastha. When you get into the stream of grihastha, you have a husband, a wife, children, family. And for the first time in your life, as a man or woman, you have started thinking about what can I do for them? After all, sir, they are my own, my child, my husband, my wife, my mother, my father, all this group. Therefore, I should do justice to that. Do it. Unselfish activities. Go ahead with it. Grihastha. By the time the children grow up, when the children grow up, by the time you're 50, 55, then the children are about to get married. When the children are about to get married, you tell the child, beta, you choose this. This is good for you. Mom, please don't interfere. I know what to do. Okay. See, because there's a generation gap, so you can't understand what I'm talking. This language, when it comes from your own children, when your husband is happy to do everything on his own without including the wife in anything, when the wife is happy without being the husband around and she says, I can do without, don't worry about it. When that attitude comes, then it is time for the next stage, vanaprastha. Vanaprastha means going to the forest. Going to the forest means not actually going to the forest. As far as most of the countries are concerned, forests are not there anymore. They are burning right, left, and center. This is more internal. Renunciation. Internally give up. छोड़ो अभी किसको क्या involve होना है किसके life में. Do this. If you listen, well and good. If you don't listen, Jairam ji ki, it's okay, fair enough. Do what you want to do. Sir, but when you smoke, na, it's very interesting. When you drink, na, that whatever it is you do, as you think you do, doesn't matter. If you do this, there will be problems. But then it's your life. This is vanaprastha, coming back, going back. And eventually, you will reach a state of sannyasa, where you will not be able to hear anybody. You will not be able to talk to anybody because they will not have the patience to hear. They will give you a cot and a small TV before your head. Keep on watching. And a plate. Which plate? A steel plate perhaps. Because 2 glass plates they tried. And both the glass plates you broke. So third plate would be steel plate which will unbreakable. Sit. Don't interfere. Sannyasa. So the actual sannyasi is a very intelligent fellow. What they do is, even before this vanaprastha comes and sannyasa comes, some of the sannyasis don't even get into grihastha. They directly start Brahmacharya, they learn what it is and they skip all the part, like Adi Shankaracharya or Ramana Maharishi. Some people get into Grahastha, like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and all, and then from there on, they don't go into Vanaprastha, they directly go into Sannyasa. That depends on your individual character. Why I'm giving you all this big talk is, he just said bounden duty, and everybody's doing their duty. Your duty is decided only by one person, you yourself. Be true to yourself. That's all. You don't have to be true to the world. You don't have to answer to anybody else. You know what is right? Yes, sir. You know what is wrong? Yes. Then you apply. Don't follow the herd. When everybody else is doing something wrong because they want to do it, that's their problem. That is their karma. Follow the truth every time. So I am going, that bounden duty, anashrita karma phalam, karyam karma karoti yaha, saha sannyasi saha yogi cha. He is a sannyasi, he is a yogi. Not with uniform, without uniform, how many ashrams I have made, how many ashrams are there or not there, how many fan following is there, how many statues are there. What's it called? How much likes we have. How much likes we have, how many people are, it doesn't matter. A true sannyasi. Na niragnir, na chakriya. Not the person who has no passion. No passion means no goal. Why are you living? It's a very deep answer, sir. Why are you living? Abhi tak pata nahi chala. As it is going on, you know, political things are happening. So I go into politics also. Sometimes I go into other countries also just for visitation. I go here, there. I keep on calling people. How are you? How are you doing? It's into a little bit of socializing. My children are very well settled, and husband is very happy at present. I don't know how he'll be afterwards. But wife is also very happy. She's okay. She doesn't talk much, so I'm happy. And what was my question? What is your goal in life? I don't know, sir. If you don't have any goal, then you are not living. You are not living. You are only existing like a vegetable. You eat, you drink, you sleep. That's it. Because there is nothing higher in life. Only a human being, do you know, amongst all living creatures can fix a goal and live. So a person without a goal, the person without passion, there won't be any passion. Waiting for retirement, waiting for, then what to do, sir? Anybody, the society is so, what has that got to do with you? You fire, you talk, you do the activity. Let nobody come, doesn't matter. One of my favorite advertisements I saw a long time back is where heavy rains are there in one of the roads in India, and a huge tree is fallen down, and there is this school bus which is stuck. So from the school bus comes a 5 or 6 year old boy, small tiny boy, and he gets wet in the rain. He removes his school bag and he starts pushing the tree. It's a huge tree, and his 5-year-old boy is pushing. So there is opposite that there's a tree is blocking the whole road. So there is opposite a motorcycle, and the girl hits the boy who is driving and said, look, the child is pushing. So he also gets down, and both of them start pushing from that side. Then some police people get down, then people, slowly people come, and everybody starts pushing, and the whole bulk of the tree is removed and the traffic is restored. What I liked about that is, why did the child push? Did the thought even come in the child's head, a 5-year-old child's head, that if I push, everybody will come? Certainly, looking at that big, mighty tree, he would have understood that even if he pushes, it will not be enough. Then why was he pushing it? Karyam karma karoti yaha. In your own small, finite way, Do it. Whatever you want to do, do it. Small, make a splash, even if it is just a ripple, doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of a society you create. Nobody's going to watch that. It's just that tomorrow, when everything ends in your life, you'll have a smile on your face. You'll just be happy of doing what is supposed to be done. And whatever I did it with complete fire, with complete passion. It was not a half job saying, karna hai, karenge, anyway, what difference does it make? No. Each and every activity. A girl was walking by the side of the beach. It's a beautiful story. I'll end with this. Girl was walking by the side of the beach, and a sage came from the other side. And he saw that the girl was picking starfishes and throwing into the sea, because there were hundreds and thousands of starfishes lined up like suicide bid. They were all on the beach, and she was throwing one by one. So this man came, sage, and said, "Beta, what are you doing?" She's saying, "I am just trying to save starfishes, sir." So, but there are millions, thousands, and all of them will die anyway. So what are you doing? What difference it's going to make? So that tiny girl, she picked up that starfish, threw it into the water, looked at the sage and said, "It makes a difference to that." That one person. If it makes difference to one person's life is a little 0.01% better than what it was last year or last month or yesterday. Job is done. We can breathe in ethereal air. We'll continue next time. Thank you.